Hello, I'm Sean Eakins, and I'm going to talk about open drug discovery teams. What is a rare disease? Well, there's some variability in terms of the definition, and really no agreement globally as to what it is. But in the US, it describes a disease that affects less than 200,000 people. Some estimates have suggested that this category includes over 7,000 rare diseases. These affect between 25 to 30 million people. And even though there are over 300 orphan drugs that have been approved since the passage of the Orphan Drugs Act in 1983, there is still a long way to go until most rare diseases have a treatment, let alone a cure. After speaking to the parents of a child with a rare disease, the parents shared that their experience post-diagnosis suggested they had to quickly become experts on the rare disease. This involved finding and reading scientific papers on the topic, and connecting with researchers around the globe to find out more about the disease. Ultimately, like many parents in a similar situation, this led to their own foundation, as well as setting up their own company in order to search for a cure. Essentially, they're forming networks with researchers around the globe in their efforts to find the cure for the disease. Tools for drug discovery collaboration predominantly revolve around desktop computer applications. However, what we're seeing is a shift to more companies, institutes, and researchers openly sharing data. This has been predominantly in the neglected disease space. Some groups are also looking at using social media for collaboration. There are also efforts in open notebook research. In addition, there are other technologies out there and websites like Figshare, SlideShare, Dropbox, etc., which could enable sharing. Companies, like pharmaceutical companies in particular, are starting to share some of the data for neglected diseases, specifically in areas like malaria and tuberculosis. And to our knowledge, there is no mobile app for collaboration, until now, that is. What about using Twitter? This led us to create an app called Open Drug Discovery Teams, or ODDT for short. Creating an app is one thing, but what can it do? ODDT was intended to bring together freely accessible and open data in a single aggregated collection and facilitate the formation of open research teams around the data. Such teams could be individual researchers in academia, industry, as well as people in the general public who have a desire to be kept up to date with research in a particular subject or research area. It should enable them to also keep up to date with advances in diseases. Initially, we've used ODDT to harvest Twitter feeds on the hashtags for several diseases, including malaria, tuberculosis, Huntington's disease, HIV/AIDS, Sanfilippo syndrome, and giant axonal neuropathy, as well as H5N1 as well. In addition, we've included a research topic on green chemistry, which is of interest to the community because they, in particular, are very receptive to open collaboration. All of these subjects have a very high potential for positively impacting the research environment using computational approaches. I'm now going to give you a little tour of how to use the app. This is the starting screen, and as you can see, you can select your own Twitter account. You can actually select multiple accounts. You can also look at how much the individual topics have been assessed in terms of endorsements, disapprovals, and injections of data. You can browse over any of the particular diseases or topics. And obviously as we add more topics, this will add more panels. Selecting the malaria topic, you can see on the right hand side we've got tweets, and you browse by clicking the bottom right hand side of the screen or by flicking it with your finger. You can click onto an individual tweet, and this generally takes you to links to, for example, blog pages or wiki pages. And you can endorse or disapprove or comment on an individual tweet. So for example here, you could actually add a comment into the field. Once it's endorsed, it will be saved within the recent section of the particular topic, and these topic areas are now obviously ranked, or these tweets are ranked. Here's an example where you actually can click onto a molecule. This shows very nicely the chemistry aware nature of the app, and also how you can then link out to other tools like, for example, ChemSpider. This, we believe, is a unique feature of this mobile app in terms of its chemistry awareness, and obviously that makes it very relevant for doing drug discovery using small molecules. The link to ChemSpider is obviously enabling you to show more information than will probably be available within an actual tweet itself. And obviously there will be other databases in the future that we'll be able to link to. Going back to recent again, we can actually see that tweets that have been endorsed has now come into the app in a very short period of time. And now just highlighting one of the rare diseases, Sanfilippo syndrome. Again, you can see that there's quite an active Twitter feed here from people involved and interested in the disease, and there's links out to YouTube videos, etc. And this is one example of a recent video that was uploaded from France. And again, we're using the endorse option within the app. And browsing through, you can see that there are several tweets around this Sanfilippo syndrome. Some of them are around fundraising, as well as links to blogs, etc., to raise awareness of the particular disease. Here's a great example where someone's uploaded photographs around the child suffering from Sanfilippo syndrome. And links out obviously to the blog, in this case a particular blog around the child with the syndrome. There's also links to other data and information around the disease. Here, natural products that have been tested, Genistein, and some information about that in obviously different languages. Genistein itself is being actively evaluated as a potential treatment for the disease. So we have a number of tweets around that, spreading awareness of it. So what influenced the design of ODDT? Well, we wanted it to be magazine-like in appearance and interaction. We based a lot of our concept on the Flipboard mobile app, which in itself is a great example of a magazine-type mobile app. We hope that ODDT is Flipboard for science. So what are we going to do in the future with ODDT? Well, we'd certainly like to make it much more of an open lab notebook type tool as a mobile app. This would involve integrating other data sources such as Google Alerts, Google Scholar, and PubMed. We believe that these will be certainly important sources of information and content going forwards and really expand on what we're bringing in from the Twitter feed. In addition, we'd certainly also like to add annotation around some of the content, and this will certainly add value to what the app itself can provide from these particular sources. So what is our vision for the future of ODDT? We'd like it to become the go-to computational cheminformatics tool as a mobile app. This will require integrating technologies like docking, pharmacophore, and similarity type tools. This will ultimately enable anyone to use it to do drug discovery. I'd now like to explain why we need funding from you. Obviously, so far we've made the ODDT app freely available. We'd like to continue doing this, but also we'd like to increase the capacity, and this will involve increased server space, and we'd like to maintain this over at least 3 years. We'd also like to add more data. As we mentioned, we'd like to integrate other sources of data like Google Alerts, etc. And in order to do this, we need you. We believe that these efforts and your contributions will allow us to improve the performance of ODDT and make it more useful, give it longevity, and increase the utility of this technology for influencing drug discovery for rare and neglected diseases. If you'd like to support us, we will reward you handsomely. We can put your name or your logo on the front page of the app, on one of the disease areas, for example. You could suggest a disease area that you would sponsor. That's another option. We can also add your name or your logo within the pages. Some examples of where we would put those logos are shown here. As you can see, we've got plenty of white space within the app in order to add this information. So go on, please support us now. We'd like to acknowledge some of the people that have really helped us. In particular, we'd like to thank the alpha testers that provided important support and advice as we were setting up the ODDT app. We'd also like to gratefully acknowledge Jill Wood, who not only provided her insights around rare diseases, but also provided access to one of the images for the app. We'd also like to acknowledge you for supporting ODDT, and we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you using the app in the future. Thank you for your attention.